This is Red Dog Terrain. Welcome back to the shed. Today we're building a big old sign. So I've done a few very little cons out in my area. And then after joining up with the Plastic Microphone Studio guys, we're planning on doing more. I think we've got something like 6 or 7 cons that we're going to be attending. And I didn't have a sign. I had a small printed out sign with a QR code, and that was fine. People could do that. But I think I needed something bigger, something that would that would attract people and be like, oh, that's that thing. That's Red Dog Terrain. So I had this idea to spell out the letters, the words of Red Dog Terrain with junk. I've got drawers and drawers of junk that people have given me and that I found and I've collected, and I thought it'd be neat to put everything under the letters and spray paint them red, and then do the outside of it actually also in junk. But somebody made a good suggestion that I should do the outside, the negative space in grasses and stuff, so that it pops more. And then somebody else gave a suggestion that instead of doing all of it in the junk, to do the bottom in actual terrain stuff like roof tiles and things like that. And I thought about it and I went, okay, these are good ideas, and that's what I'm going with. I'm building a big sign for when I do cons. And when I told my buddy Eric about this, he was all on board. He's like, oh, I want to come over and help. I want to, he always is talking about coming over to the shed and playing and doing things. And this was a great opportunity for him to come over, and I really appreciated his time and his efforts and all that he did. Thanks, Eric. So we spent a few hours on a Saturday morning just putting bits, putting toys and trash and odd things on and filling up the letters. Eric was really good at filling up the larger spaces, and then I would come through and with all the tiny things and fill it all in just to make it look full. You can see at the bottom of the screen all the things that were in there, and this is probably only half of it, because after a while I wasn't even able to identify what some of this was. I would cut it up into pieces and stick it on there, or some of these things I didn't know what they were from the beginning. And this was a terrible amount of fun, just putting things together, and I could see myself doing other things. I have a plan to do another one for a big secret project for the summer of 2027. But I'm definitely going to be doing more of these, or something like this. And all these pieces, all this junk, barely made a dent in my junk collection. It's still drawers and drawers full. It's kind of sad. Can anybody help me identify this little anime character? He looks familiar, but I don't watch a whole lot of anime, and I can't wait for somebody to walk up and be like, oh my god, you destroyed such and such guy. And I'm like, yes, I did. He's from this thing. So, who's this guy? And with the last piece put in, I was done with this, the big part. This took a couple of weeks to get all this done, but I really did enjoy myself. I look forward to coming home and just putting junk together. My hope for this sign is to get people to come over to the booth, but also for people to just sit there and look at it and try and identify the different little things that are hidden inside of it. After getting all the Red Dog letters done, I duct taped it off, and late one night I was outside spray painting it, everything red. I don't think I really needed the duct tape, but in my head it was helpful. After that came a black oil wash over everything, just to get everything to really stand. I wanted a little bit of grime, but putting the black wash really adds a lot of detail, because spray painting the whole thing, it hides a lot, and putting the black wash, you see the details, you see the lines, you see the little indentations and divots. For the terrain part, I went with what a friend suggested, and I each different letter was going to be a different type of terrain, a different type of texture, something to show off what I can do and what it's all about. So the first one was going to be wood. The E was going to be stones. The first R is going to be metal tiles. The second R is going to be tiny bricks. The A is roof tiles. The I is concrete. And then the N is going to be like a stucco texture. And all this is going to be things that you've seen before. If you've watched the channel for a little while, it's using a gnarly wire brush to make wood texture. It's cutting things up and putting them at angles to make them more interesting. It's using aluminum foil to make stone textures. This is all things that you've probably seen me do before. It's using a pen to make the rivet holes in the metal. It's again with the gnarly wire brush to make the texture on the roof tiles. My homemade texture roller for concrete, making a real thick custard for stucco. It's going to be using my homemade brick tumbler. All these things that you've seen me do before, just at a much smaller scale, which was kind of interesting because normally if I'm doing a building or whatever, there's lots of roof tiles. This didn't take long, and I kind of zipped through different parts of it fairly quickly, and I was like, oh well, that was done quickly, easily. All right, let's move on. And while I'm doing all those things that you've probably already seen me do before, let me get a few things out of the way. I joined up with the Plastic Microphone Studio, which is a collection of Louisiana content creators. They're podcasters and YouTubers and gamers who are all working together to help promote each other, go to cons, and generally be good to each other and help each other out. So check out those people. People like Faye 5 from Fans, Average Home Theater Reviews, Sequel House, things like that. I'm also going to ask you to check out the band Aya. They are a stoner doom metal band from Cordoba, Argentina, and I've used their music in all of my videos. I found them several years ago. I reached out to them and said, hey, I got this little YouTube channel and I need background music. Would you guys be willing to let me use this? And they're like, actually, yes, go for it. We play D&D too, as long as I give them credit, and they were super cool about it. So I'm hoping that one person will check them out and buy an album, and I will have helped. Also, check out my friend Rab on Twitch. He plays old school RuneScape. I don't know anything about RuneScape, but he sure does. So it's Rab, and I'll put the name up here. Now that I got all the shout outs out of the way, let's talk about what I've done so far. The first letter, the T, is old wood, again, gnarly wire brush, and I put everything on an angle, and later on I would actually put a little border on it. It just needed something to tie it together. The A is E. E becomes before, well, in this word, E comes before the A. Is stone tiles. This is super easy. Cut them 1 inch by 1 inch squares. Roll them with a big old thing of aluminum foil. Toss them in my homemade texture roller. The brick roller. The first R was metal tiles. I think I cut these at like a 1 inch by 2 inch, and then had a smaller strip in between. And I used a pen to poke holes to make the rivets. Didn't do any real texturing on this one. The second R is tiny bricks. I spent an hour or two just making bricks, and then just slowly put them in. Real simple stuff. Moving on to the A, we got roof tiles. Use the hot wire, but anything you can do on a hot wire you can also do with just your hands and a sharp knife. It just is so much faster with the prox on. So I made the roof tiles. I also had another little wooden border on this one, just to put everything in together, and that way also you don't see those the ugly edges of the roof tiles. I felt like I kind of went through those techniques pretty quickly, and I'm not sure why, because this is definitely going to be the longest video that I've ever put out. Normally my videos are less than 10 minutes, and I'm at 10 minutes now, and I haven't even gotten to paint. I really like the way the eye came out. I measured a piece of foam to be the same size as the eye, and then I ran through the peroxide on an angle just to bevel the edges. And then I took this tool that I made. It's just a piece of PVC pipe. I coated it in glue and then just rolled it through sand. I've had to go back and redo the sand every so often because bits of it fall off, but that actually kind of improves it. It makes different textures and makes more variation in random bits of it. It's absolutely perfect for making this concrete texture. It's just tiny little divots all over the place. And then I took a sharp X-Acto knife and I cut out little chips and pieces like that. Then I took 2 pieces of wire. I twisted them together with my drill and a vise, and then stuffed them into some of the larger cracks. And that became what I thought of as the rebarb. And I think it's one of my favorite parts. Well, besides the junk letters, it's my favorite part of the terrain part. How about that? And here I made a stucco very similar to crustard, except this is far thicker. There's almost no grout in it, which is a big component of crustard. I thought of this as the stucco on the outside of the building. I did I felt maybe I cheated a little bit on this one. It's not exactly what I would have wanted to do, but I kind of ran out of ideas of what to do for this last letter. And before I move on to the paint, I covered everything in Mod Podge, which strengthens foam, also gives a nice base color for all the shadows. My best friend died 8 years ago. He had colon cancer. My core group of friends, including him, have been playing D&D for several years, and I had begun painting minis. Wanting to learn how to paint better, I watched a lot of YouTube, and that eventually led to me watching terrain and diorama building videos, and I enjoyed those even more than the mini painting stuff. So when my best friend died, 2 other friends, Eric, who you saw here, and Lad, who brings me all the best junk, they came over. They knew I was hurting. They knew I needed a distracting hobby. So we sat around my kitchen table and built. I built a house. It's simple and it's not great, but I love it. And I still have it. And after that, I kept building and learning and getting better. And as I watched my mentors on YouTube, Black Magic Craft and Wylock and Eric's Hobby Workshop and Miscast and Geek Gaming and Boylai and the rest, I thought to myself, I can do that. I could do that. I could expand this hobby. I could make a YouTube channel. And that's how Red Dog Terrain was born. It was born out of the death of my best friend, sadness, too much time on my hands, the love and support of friends, and the stubborn thought that I could do amazing things. After everything got a base coat, I did a lot of dry brushing. I want to point out the wood texture on the T. I started with a base coat of gray and then did just a heavy dry brush in brown. I found, and because I've watched YouTube, as you know, that starting with the gray base coat makes the wood look much older. It's if you look at old wood, it's not really brown. It's gray, and this was there's something new that I tried, and I think it came out really well. After all the dry brushing was oil washes. For the rusty metal, I started with a bunch of oranges and reds and stuff, and then took this horribly smashed up brush and just kind of blotted everything on, making sure to leave the red parts and the orange parts underneath, all along the edges. Then use some really good oil washes to finish it off. A few things that I did in particular, I painted the rebarb parts in copper, which doesn't really make sense because they're probably going to be brown, but it stands out and it looks good. This is all the cheap acrylic paint that I use for this thing. Acrylic paint works just fine when you're doing dioramas. Maybe not for minis, but dioramas is fine. And then on an unusually cold Louisiana morning, I made a very wet batch of Sculptamold. This was just to get a little bit of undulation and texture and hills and gaps and stuff for when I would do all the grass on top. I wasn't really worried about the peaks and all that. Most of that's going to get covered up anyways with grass and flock. I put down some glue in batches and then started covering everything in flocking. I did use my favorite, still looking for a sponsor, Huge Miniatures 4-in-1 flock. This stuff works great, man. I highly suggest it. And then I went back through and filled in the spaces, the gaps with regular old flocking, the woodland scenic stuff. And if you made it this far and you like something you see, if you like what I'm doing here, give me a like, subscribe, leave a comment. People often say, I don't know what to comment. So this time, tell me what's your favorite fruit. I think mine is kiwis. I use so much flock and the 4-in-1 stuff and just the random greenery and tufts. I blew through a whole bunch of it, but it's totally worth it. I really like the sign. As I do the last little bits, I'm going to say thank you for watching, thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, thank you for all the support. I'm going to be quiet and let the music play. Now go out and build something amazing.